What's up, everybody? Welcome to our first East Coast Spear Chasers podcast. And we're here with some of the team. Not everybody could make it. So we got CJ, our gifted medium. We got Terry, the human EMF detector. Travis, world famous paranormal investigator, who's also on the Travis Show. You can go and like that on Facebook. We got
Pew,
Joe
pew,
with his
pew.
Spirit of Halloween mustache. And we've got Missy, who's a pretty badass medium, who's been kind of mentoring CJ and Terry. So this past Saturday, we were up in Harrisville, Rhode Island, and we investigated the Conjuring house. So for some of us, this was our second go around. For others, it was a first time, and we had some interesting things happen. But before we start going into some of those things, we'll go over a little bit of the history. Some of the urban legends and things going on with the Conjuring home. So basically, if you're living under a rock, the Conjuring movie was loosely based off this specific story that's been going on. And this was about the Perron family who bought the house in December of 1970, and they ended up living there until June 1980. And all kinds of stuff was going on in there, to the point that they had to bring in Ed Warren and Lorraine Warren to come in and find out what's going on. So, they had, through their investigation, they were able to determine that there was a alleged witch named Bathsheba Sherman who was doing the hauntings and stuff, and she was around from back in the 1800s and lived next door at the Sherman farm. And there's a lot of controversies with her. Some say that she sacrificed a child that was in her care to Satan because he mysteriously ended up getting a large sewing needle in his skull. And they had a little bit of a trial thing there, and she was found innocent. There was just not enough evidence, and but the locals there, they weren't buying it, and they all said basically that she's the one that's causing all these things. Um, so fast forwarding on to the Perron hauntings, when Lorraine and Ed were there doing the investigations, one of the things that happened to Carolyn Perron, which was the mother that was affected there, she ended up, one of the instances was that she ended up getting like a puncture wound on her calf, and Lorraine Warren came out and said, well, maybe this is Bathsheba who was doing this in the afterlife and took this needle and is doing this in the afterlife. So the name Bathsheba she pulled out from a psychic read on the location. That was the name that came to her. And she saw Bathsheba as this witchy woman who had jagged teeth and like these sunken eyes and stuff like that. And today you can actually go and visit Bathsheba's grave, which is at the Harrisville Cemetery. So we went there, and we didn't really get too much interaction the two times that we went there. You can't really see the headstone anymore because weather knocked it down. They tried to fix it. Then you had, vandals that came and knocked it over, and it broke, and now they can't really do anything with it. But people leave all sorts of stuff there for them. So one of the things that was interesting about this with Bathsheba is that you know they blamed her for all this stuff. Was it a urban legend? Was this truth? Was this just talking shit about someone? During our investigation, we didn't really come up with anything Bathsheba. So that was just we tried multiple times, nothing came up Bathsheba. But one of the things that did come up, and we can play this clip for you guys here, is that the Perron family, they would hear these whispers where they would hear 7 soldiers buried in the wall. And that was something that was just happening over and over again. And if you watched our live feed, uh, you would have heard when we were doing the EVP, and we caught the voice on it. It was a little hard to hear, but I'm gonna try and play this clip for you so you guys can hear it. Um, the first part of the clip is going to be the actual audio, not doctored, so you can hear it. And it's right after CJ says something, then you'll hear 7 soldiers, and then Missy goes on and says something. Then after that clip, you'll hear amplified replay of just the 7 soldiers. So let me play that clip for you right here.
Are you holding my hand?
I just saw a shadow.
Where?
Behind CJ.
It's a little hard to hear. If you did hear it, definitely drop a comment. Let us know if you heard it. So a couple things happened this weekend, and I'd like to go into some of the pretty interesting things that were leading up to the investigation. We were having there was visions going on, dreams, all kinds of stuff. So let me turn this over to CJ so we can give you a little more info.
So a couple days before we were going to the Conjuring house, I had a dream that Missy, Terry, and we were in the middle bedroom of the Conjuring house, and we were surrounded by all this dark energy and this dark light, and around the three of us happened to be the complete opposite, this bright ball of light and almost like protecting us. And next to Terry, I saw her late brother who passed a couple weeks ago. And for some reason, we were in that specific bedroom, just the three of us in some sort of darkness, and we were around this light. And that would go around the same time, shortly after that. In fact, the next day, Missy saw a white mist past her in her own house, and across from her, next to the door, was this black kind of mist that moved rather quickly. And once again, she was being protected by this white light from this darkness. And that goes to Terry. I don't know how your dream went.
So my dream, we were on the upper level of the house, again in the middle bedroom, but the house was shaky. So the house was really unstable. As we walked through it, it wasn't safe for me. So, CJ.
And so we took that as like, we didn't see that at the time, but during this whole episode was happening, Terry had a really bad attachment, and we didn't see that at the time, but we felt as though these dreams and stuff kind of led to Terry being who she is, and or the danger she faced.
So, Missy, you want to talk about something that you experienced with that? Can you hear me?
I think she's delayed a little bit.
All right. I don't know what happened to Missy. You there? Can you hear us? Technical difficulties.
Okay. It keeps like
There you are.
breaking up. Sorry. What?
Yeah, she's not getting good service.
Uh-oh. All right. So one of the things that we did was, well, CJ, you want to talk about what happened with Missy then? Her dream?
She had a vision that the two of us saw some sort of figure, that we were going to see some sort of apparition while we were at the house. And although that didn't happen, we did see a bunch of bright lights in an experiment that we tried that we'll talk about coming up.
Well, let's get to it. Let's talk about that experiment.
And we did see, now during that experiment, we did see some shadow type figures. So I don't know. It wasn't quite exactly like her vision, but we did see those shadow figures.
So the experiment basically was to put you three that have these abilities in the middle bedroom on the top floor,
correct.
and basically let's see what happens.
So we went up there. Correct. We went up there. We all held hands. We all were pretty anxious, I think. So it was a little bit worse because we all feel each other's anxiety. So we were feeling our own anxiety plus each other's. And then we tried to do it with the video camera on, and we just weren't getting it. So we turned the video camera off to have complete darkness. And it took about 5-10 minutes, maybe, sitting there in the dark, holding hands.
Well, let me tell you, the anxiety was real. It was
it was bad. It was
bad.
It wasn't like, it wasn't quite scared. It was just like super anxious of what's about to come.
Yeah.
I mean, and for me, part of it was what's that, Missy?
Yeah, it was really, 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 really anxious.
Yeah. And for me, part of it was
really anxious in there.
Yeah. That as much as I wanted to see my brother, I was kind of afraid to too, because I know I can't touch him and hold him and hug him the way I wanted to. So I wasn't sure what was going to happen. And that's where my anxiety came through. But then as the process went on, we started seeing shadow figures. And there was one shadow figure that went from the middle of the bed in front of us over to the left. And as he did that, it's almost like he was trying to get us to look over to that window. Because when we looked through that window, that's when we saw that light. It was like, for me, it was a white light with a little bit of blue, silvery kind of at the bottom. Mm-hmm. And the only thing I can compare it to is the Northern Lights. Mm-hmm. If you ever seen a picture of the Northern Lights, it looked exactly like that.
And the way that the room is set up, when she's talking about the window, it's a window in the room, and if you look into that window, there's another room there. So it's just a window inside the house to another section of the house.
Right. So the light actually came from the other bedroom. What's that, CJ?
We heard the knock on that window.
Yeah.
That's
so
right.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and then as we were leaving, we kept getting CJ's angel, Isabella, was
Why don't you
there.
explain who Isabella is for those that don't know?
CJ?
So Isabella is a girl that Terry and I, we met at the haunted orphanage in Gettysburg. And she's a spirit, and we knew she was in some sort of danger, and we felt very compelled to help her. And ever since then, she's been following me around. Missy's also said she's joining us tonight, so she's here. And yeah, she happened to be in the middle room with us. And I was asking, should we leave or should we stay? Because the feeling started to get a little changing a bit. And she gave us a sign, and sure enough, she knocked on the window, and that's when we knew the experiment was over.
Mm-hmm. Interesting stuff.
Yeah. She definitely wanted us to leave there.
What's that?
She didn't want us to be
better connection.
Yeah, she said she definitely wanted us to leave the room at that time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So let's talk to Joe, who's been a little quiet. Joe, you still with us?
Hi.
Now, you didn't attend this last one that we just did, but you came to the first one.
Yeah.
Can you give us a couple of things that kind of stuck out for you during your experience at the Conjuring house?
First thing I can say off the rip, and everyone knows this, I was nervous going in there, and not a single soul can say they weren't even just a tad bit nervous about going into the house and doing an investigation. You see the movies, even though the movies are kind of exaggerated. You watch all these documentaries, you read all this history, and you kind of every time we go on an investigation, we don't know exactly what we're getting into. We try our best to prepare, but this time it was more like they were saying I was anxious to actually get in there and start investigating the first time, just because it was such like a huge like bucket list location. And we got in there, and it really, like, if you saw the lives and our commentaries from before, there wasn't too much activity. That there was less activity than we expected, but it was definitely like very busy.
Mm-hmm.
The number one thing that really stuck out to me, we were just talking about this. We were doing the EVP around the table, and if you guys watch the videos in the Conjuring house, there's Ouija boards everywhere. Don't use a Ouija board; they're really bad. But anyway, when we were doing the EVP at the table, and the table actually started shaking, that was kind of one of my like oh poop moments. This is some serious stuff. Before you guys were talking about the middle room, I remember clearly the middle room. We were all in there the first time, and that's where we all got extremely drained. It was crazy because once you step outside, you're fine. You're like awake again. Then you step back into that room, and then your energy starts depleting and stuff like that. So those are like the two biggest things that I have in the back of my mind from when we went back in October.
Mm-hmm. And then for me, doing both of them, I was more affected the second time around than the first time. When I first stepped foot the second time into the Conjuring house, I just felt kind of like sickly for like the first hour. And then I was in the basement and we were doing some EVPs, and I just felt like I was just going like this, like bouncing up and down. And I felt like almost like a wave or something kind of hit me. So it was definitely weirder for me in there investigating this time. What about you guys comparing, the house from the first time to the second time?
Well, the first time there, I would like to call my buddy Joe. I feel like the first time there, me and Joe were really on point, and we picked up on a lot of the same noises and some of the same stuff that we were hearing. So in that aspect, it was hard to have him not be here the second time. Maybe things would have been different. He is an important team member, and we have that connection where we hear the same things and stuff like that. So, I also maybe a little biased because he did go to the bathroom in the woods with me when we weren't allowed in the haunted bathroom before. So that was a funny time.
Battle buddy system. No one goes alone.
But you didn't have to bring your camera on, the camera phone with you though. So I don't know why you
You're
did
right.
that.
I just want to ask. I'm sorry, Missy, real quick. How were you? Were you affected in the basement the same you were the first time? I think we're having
I don't know.
technical again.
She's got a delay. She's having major issues.
It wasn't as bad, but it's still heavy down there.
Yeah, because if you guys look at our pictures and videos from the first time we went there, Missy actually got scratched in the basement, and that's kind of when we were like, all right, maybe it's time to kind of pop smoke and get out of here.
Mm-hmm. If you go on to eastcoastspiritchasers.com, in our gallery section, you'll see that scratch that Missy got down there. But one of the things that I've noticed is the house gets much more negative the later on in the evening that it gets. It started to get a little aggressive towards the later hours. Terry, you want to talk about what happened?
Well, first I was going to say about the basement. I don't know if we ever found the solution to it, but that well in the basement, somebody put flowers there.
Yeah.
As if something had gone, like they were fresh flowers, as if something had gone on in that well.
Well, one of the EVPs we did get there was, they try to honor her. So,
yeah. So
we do know, I guess, maybe a female fell down that well. And,
yeah, something happened in that well that we don't have the answer to. So when you say, do I want to talk about what happened when it started getting negative? Is that you're talking about the face that Travis saw and the guy?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then what happened in the middle bedroom when we all went up again?
So someone else can cover the middle bedroom, maybe CJ. So when we were downstairs, Travis was seeing a guy, but he was only seeing him as the head. was seeing his head, and he described him as, he couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman at first.
And this was in the seance room where
In the
Ed and
seance room.
Lorraine did the
Yeah.
seance, and where Carolyn Perrone was picked up and thrown into the other room.
Right. And then CJ started feeling like he was being watched and someone was at his back. And then Missy also was seeing the guy who, to us, was showing himself as a much younger man. But after the fact, he followed CJ home. So CJ, you want to cover how he followed you when we left and made you feel and messing with your radio and
Yeah, so that night when we got back to the hotel, I still felt the same way I did. And I kind of had a feeling he was going to follow me home because he was paying me so much attention. And I don't know if it was him, but I kept hearing knocks on my door like every 20 minutes. I figured it was him, but you don't know. So anyways, I didn't think much of it, but the morning I woke up, I didn't feel well. I didn't feel like myself, but we started driving home, and my good friend Maggie, I know she's watching, she was like, "Hey, you don't seem like yourself. Like, are you mad at me? Like, what's wrong?" And I was like, I feel cold. Like, I feel like I'm in like a big ball of cold air. Like, I feel like, something's attached to me. I feel like he's following me. So I was like, "Hey, can you send a few photos to my friend Missy, have her check it out, see what's going on?" And she was like, "Sure, no problem." Sure enough, Missy's like, "Yeah, you have him, it's the same guy who's been following you. He's in your car right now." So I was like, "Okay, fine. Can you try to remove him?" And she was like, "Yeah, I'll handle it. Don't worry, I got your back." So I'm driving for a couple minutes, maybe half an hour. Next thing you know, the radio starts getting played with, switching stations, the volume, whatnot. And then I have my map on my phone, and every once in a while I'll look at it, and you know how when you hit end and your phone locks, it would do that, and the destination would stop. The GPS was just not working, and I was like, you know what, this is it. So I pulled over. Me and Maggie, we burned some sage, we cleansed a little bit, and sure enough, we were able to have it removed. I mean, he was a pain to get rid of. It took me and a shaman of ours that we use, Fernando, a little bit to get rid of it. However, Missy was able to get a lot of information about him. So if she wants to talk about it.
back.
Missy, you with us?
She's on a delay. Should kick in a couple seconds.
She looks so intimidating in that pose there. No wonder she's always kicking ass in these spirits.
You hear me?
Yeah.
We can hear you.
She's unsure because of the delay, but we can hear her really well.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. I can't see you guys, but I can hear you a little bit better now.
Good
Right.
enough.
Okay, you can. Okay. So we were talking about Philip, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Philip. With Philip, Fernando told me that he was showing him as younger, but he was also showing himself in his 70s. So he said it was pretty interesting. He thought that it was kind of like he was matrixing everybody. So he's trying to like fool everybody into thinking that he's younger, but he's really in his 70s. So his name's Philip, and he was from was it Warwick, Rhode Island?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The amazing part of it was that he was from Warwick, Rhode Island, but once Fernando got his name, we were able to Google him. He actually died 2 days before we investigated
So
Wow.
he probably
in
sensed
Rhode Island.
you guys had abilities and kind of latched on, curiosity wise. And he
Right.
followed to the Conjuring house, and he was kind of messing with CJ during the investigation. And didn't Fernando say that he wasn't very nice to women?
Yeah.
And one of the things that was going on, we were starting to get some aggressive stuff happening. Missy ended up getting pushed in the library, and then she got called a name in the kitchen area. And all of a sudden, things started getting much darker during the investigation.
CJ, didn't you get pushed or something by Philip?
I don't know. I don't remember. I don't think so.
Okay.
Well, Missy, I know, was pushed, and I think she had like her hair pulled.
Yeah.
So we think it was this guy Philip who kind of followed CJ to the Conjuring house.
Speaking of the library, was there any activity with the book or no?
No,
No.
and for those that don't know, in the library there's a book called Moral Relativity, and it's constantly falling off the shelf. It's the only book that continues to fall off the shelf. We never saw it fall off the shelf. These are just claims by other investigators, the people that live in the home. That's the stuff that they got. But if you look at some of the books and stuff that are in that library, it's a lot of stuff that was left behind from the previous people that used to live there, which I believe that they were, I think, shrinks or psychiatrists, something like that. There's a lot of books, like stuff that we would never want to read because it would probably bore us terribly. But Moral Relativity was the name of that book. So I'm going to talk about Mr. Travis because there was something that happened on both investigations. It was the same exact thing. And that is something that Travis saw. Travis, you want to tell us about the soldiers that were in that seance room?
I could see them, but only in different rooms.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how they like it.
How many were there?
Set about 7 different soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
The first time, all of them were holding guns. The second time, only 2.
Do you hear him?
Mm-hmm.
The first time, all of them had guns, and the second time, only 2 of them had guns.
Mm-hmm. And that's interesting because of the hauntings that were going on with the Perone family, where 7 dead soldiers are buried in the walls. That's what kept getting whispered. So we think that the wall is actually in behind of the house, where it's kind of built into the ground of where these soldiers could possibly be. And if you're tuning in now, we did get an EVP that said 7 soldiers. So I'll play that for you guys one more time now. When you hear it, you'll hear the unedited clip. It's going to be a little harder to hear. It'll be CJ saying something, then the 7 soldiers EVP, and then Missy says something. And then after that, you'll hear the repeat of just 7 soldiers with the volume up a little louder. So let me get that for you guys again in case you missed it earlier.
Are you holding my hand?
I just saw a shadow
Where?
behind CJ.
7 soldiers. And the way that he described them, they were like revolutionary soldiers with the type of hats and stuff that the way that they were described. And he saw them the first time we were there and the second time. And they were kind of pointing guns in different directions, is the way that he said it. Now, Travis, did they see you when you tried to talk to them?
The first time, all of them did. The second time, half.
Half of them.
Yeah.
And did you ever hear any of them speak?
Not really.
No. And they were just pointing their rifles in different directions, nothing else?
Yeah. No.
Mm.
Travis, how many soldiers did you see?
7.
Seven. So just like a quick background, your typical infantry squad consists of 4 to 10 soldiers, which seven is kind of right smack dab in the middle. You normally have two firing teams, so 2 to 3 firing teams with 2 to 3 men in each firing team. So that makes sense. That would have been one squad that was there. It could have been a squad that was assigned. That's just a little background on the military aspect of it.
There you go. And Joe, why don't you tell them a little bit about why you know so much about military stuff?
I've been in the
And it's not
military.
from Call of Duty.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty good at Call of Duty. Ghost Hunter 2093. If you guys want to kill some zombies, but I've been in the military for about 5 years now, going on 6. So I kind of pick up on all the little things. Even though infantry isn't my level of expertise, I kind of pick up on certain things by just being in general.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, so moving forward, after you guys did the experiment, I wanted to come up and see what you guys saw as well. So everybody came up to that middle room, and we cut the lights off. We even cut the cameras off, and we just stared there in the darkness. Our eyes adjusted, and from my experience, I saw 2 shadow figures which were undeniable. I was sitting on the bed, and if I looked to my left, I could see the window that they were talking about, that you could see into the other room. And Dave was sitting right in a chair there, and I can see his silhouette. And then all of a sudden, I saw this shadow head just block out the rest of the window and where Dave was, and it just kind of like floated right by. It kind of glided. Once we told him what we saw, because Missy and I both saw it, then he's like, "I'm not sitting there anymore," and that was it for Dave. He stood the rest of the room. The second one that I saw was in that same window, and there was something on the top of the window pane, and it just like kept peeking in like this, and I saw it pop its head in twice, and whatever this thing was really tall. So seeing these 2 really creepy shadow figures, for me, that was the highlight for the investigation. And Terry and Travis, why is your mic off? There you
Sorry.
go.
I was listening to something Missy sent. Missy said she apologized. She's having technical difficulties.
Oh, I thought maybe there was a little bit of gas or something, so you decided
No.
to
No,
pull
I
it
was
and mute it.
Missy sent me a video of what she was hearing and seeing. It wasn't what we're seeing. So
Oh, okay.
she apologizes.
All right.
How was Dave's? Because I haven't really touched base with him ever since the investigation. How was his reaction to being there for the first time?
He enjoyed it. He said it was definitely in the upper tier of investigations that he's done. This
Okay.
was, of course, a bucket list location.
Mhm.
He couldn't make the first one. Unfortunately, there was a COVID thing going on, and unfortunately, he could not make it. So we wanted to get back in there as soon as we could, to try and see what we can find out. And I wanted Dave to experience the Conjuring House. I think it's a place that every investigator should probably go and investigate at least once, because some crazy stuff. And the interesting thing is that there was a woman named Norma Sutcliffe that used to live there, and she swore that there was no hauntings going on at all. And she was the owner right before Corey and Jen bought the place, and she's like, "No, there's nothing going on," And she ended up suing Warner Brothers for the Conjuring movie, and that's because she got all this unwanted attention, people coming to the house and stuff like that. They'd come onto the property. The interesting thing, though, is that back in 2005, Sci-Fi's Ghost Hunters actually went and investigated the property before anybody knew about it, and was called the Sutcliffe House at the time. And during that investigation, she went along and said, "Yeah, the place is haunted." So, was it haunted, or was she just playing along? Or is it because she was getting all this unwanted attention? She's like, "Nothing's going on. Stop coming to the house." And that's something that, like, the Amityville house, a lot of that stuff was going on with them, where there's this back and forth. Is it haunted? Is it not? Is it just, the Warrens exaggerating to get publicity? That's unfortunately one of the challenges that they've experienced doing a lot of these investigations. So for me, I would say, yeah, the place is definitely haunted. I mean, REM pod activities, the EVPs, the shadow figures, the way that you feel walking into the house, without a doubt, the Conjuring house, it was pretty good. Thoughts?
Well, personally for me, like my first time when I was there, it's a movie. It's something that I really enjoyed. I love the movie. It got me into the paranormal and everything like that. And we saw Nick Groff there the first time, an idol of mine. So, what I have to say to people if they should visit or not, I think yes, 100%. If you like the paranormal, then you got to go to the house because it's so iconic in the paranormal field. I just think it's a piece of history and everyone should go visit it.
Mm.
For me personally, I'd do it again. I just think the second time was different than the first, and I think every time you go, it's going to be a little different. I don't think it'll never be the same. We talked about spending the night there, and I don't know if I could or couldn't do it, but I might be down to try it someday.
Mhm. And like, the house was different the second time around. Who knows what a, third visit what would happen this time? Like the first
Yeah.
time we went, that bathroom, a lot of negative stuff in that bathroom. Something trying to lure you guys into the bathroom there. This time
Right.
when we went in, there was nothing going on in the bathroom. Like CJ, you said you didn't feel anything in there, right?
Mm-mm.
No, it's a normal bathroom to me.
Mm. Maybe because Joe wasn't in there blowing it up. I don't know.
Did yeah, I did.
Sure.
Yes.
I'm just gonna say I agree with both Terry and CJ. The one thing I will say is if you're kind of new to paranormal investigating and spirits and all that stuff, when you go in there, just don't go in there with doing all this crazy stuff. You need to go in there, you need to be smart. You see us going into all these locations, but the background of it is we go in there with, special protections, prayers. We kind of have stuff to protect ourselves. So if you're going to go in there, just be smart because you really don't know what you're going to encounter. Like we say when we went the first time, the bathroom was the big hotspot. This time, nothing was going on in the bathroom. So you never know what could happen. Just be prepared, be safe, and be smart about it because there's some really nasty stuff that can come out of it if you don't play your cards right.
Mm. And I think a lot of the hauntings that are going on now, I think it's newer type stuff that teams that are going in there, using Ouija boards, conjuring up stuff. Who knows if they even know how to properly use one of these things, whether they're closing the board down properly. We don't know. They could be opening up portals in there, bringing on new stuff in there. And, like this one guy that followed CJ. I mean, that was not a nice gentleman at all. And Travis, so you had your buddy Eric there again, right?
And the farmer.
And the farmer. So
Yeah.
Eric is a spirit that follows Travis around. He's from his high school.
No one's at the door. 1 minute.
Oh,
Some
I hope I don't have a problem.
why? What happened?
My front door just unlocked by itself.
It just unlocked. Did you
Remember
get
last
like
time?
that voice that said front door open again?
No, it doesn't do it on my front door. But you could hear it when you put the code in, you can hear it unlock.
So what happened this time?
Just when I left, it was locked because we're upstairs. We just lock it automatically. So I heard it, and I was like, "What the hell?" So I looked at my phone because I have the doorbell camera on my phone. Nobody's there because the only way it makes that noise is if you use the code to come in from the outside in. Doesn't make the noise because inside it's just a deadbolt you turn.
Hmm.
So I went down there Nobody's there. And anyone who would know the code to get in is inside already.
I know too.
Of course, Joe.
It's 10-1.
So I'm hoping I don't have a problem.
Joe. Oh, that Joe. Well, hopefully you don't have a problem. Terry has this thing about bringing her work home. I'm talking about her paranormal work.
Sure, I understand.
Why is Siri talking? Shut up, Siri. No, but she's had a few hitchhikers that come to the house. Hopefully you don't have another issue. It's because Terry's just so open, and she has such a lovely personality. They all want to come and try and hang out with her, and hope that she'll adopt them.
I guess. I mean, we have the normals. We have Eric. My uncle was here for a while. Now my brother's probably around. Danny's been here pretty regularly. So I'm okay with the regulars.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want any newbies.
Mm-hmm. Now, one of the people that came on the investigation was our good buddy Maggie Dunn.
Maggie.
And I know Maggie for a few years. We've investigated a bunch of times, and we don't really bring people that aren't on the team out, but Maggie's just so awesome that we always invite her out. And she had some interesting things happen, including her son. Her son came out. I think Travis saw her mother on one of the investigations as well. Like, there's been some crazy stuff going on, and stuff that even Missy was able to get information on that there's no way that she would know, which kind of made things a little emotional for Maggie on previous investigations. So this time, I believe Todd was there that Missy saw. So, I mean,
And Todd
that's
also
great.
came through.
What's that?
Came through for Maggie at Balladary. That's the first time Missy picked him up.
Mm-hmm.
Was at Balladary Inn.
Yeah.
No, not Balladary. The last
double day.
The double day. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool that you have these spirits, people that you were close to at one time, and they're there. They're looking after you. Like your brother's been following you around and poking at you and stuff like that. You want to talk about what you've been experiencing?
So my brother passed on Christmas Eve suddenly. And though we do this on a regular basis, it's really different when it's someone personal. And we got people that can help us. So when my brother died unexpectedly, I was desperate for just to know that he was okay. And I was desperate for answers. I didn't even want to know why he died at that point. I just desperately needed to know that he was okay wherever he was at. So I reached out to Missy and Fernando, and they couldn't find him for the first day or so, which apparently is the adjustment period. So what I did find out from Missy is that he did have a loved one that was there when he passed, which we believe was my Uncle Eddie, because my Uncle Eddie has been here and has come through on investigations for us before. Uncle Eddie used to spend a lot of time here. And which gave me comfort to know that he wasn't alone. He actually had a family member there to greet him. And since then, Danny spent a lot of time with him, showing him the ropes.
You want to say who Danny is for the
Danny is Missy's best friend who passed away a few years ago in a car accident.
And that's how I met Missy, was actually investigating her home when she closed off to validate that was Danny there. And
right.
Missy started as a client of mine who we became friends with, and then eventually ended up joining the team when she decided to open herself up again. Go ahead.
Right. So Missy sees and talks to Danny on a regular basis, and sent Danny to me, I think the second or third day after my brother passed. And so for basically since he passed, I get poked and prodded a lot, because Danny is teaching him the ropes, meaning teaching him how to touch people, teaching him how to show himself, and that sort of thing. So I'm a test dummy for the dead life for a little while, which I don't mind. It brings me comfort. I know that my brother's okay, and that's what I needed to hear. I needed that more than I needed the cause of death. And just to know that he's here with me is amazing.
Mhm.
You know, I wish I could hear his voice. I wish I could touch him one last time, but since I can't get that, this is better than nothing. So
And
hopefully he'll be one of our protectors on our investigations.
let's hope for that. And also in the afterlife, compared to the real life, he was having issues with his legs, and
Yeah.
he was able to run with no problem in the afterlife.
Right. Yeah.
So
So
physical
he had
ailment.
issues with his leg, but also he had a heart issue and stuff like that. So it's kind of funny because both to Missy and Fernando, he told them separately, look, I can run now. I haven't been able to run in a long time. So it's kind of funny to validate each other. You know, in our industry, I still need validation. So Missy and Fernando told me the same information separately, which was amazing.
And if you're tuning in, Fernando is a shaman that we use on our cases, dark stuff, demonic stuff, shaman. He comes in and he kicks ass and he boots out unwanted spirits.
He's very, very powerful and effective. In the back of my mind, I like to consider him like Dumbledore.
And like Joe, why don't you talk about what happened? With the investigation that you brought to us, with your bro.
Yeah,
And
so
Fernando kicked some ass in there.
yeah, we had a client case, and we pretty much we were over there, we were hanging out, and they brought to my attention. You know, sometimes I have dreams, I see things. You know, certain things happen to me. One time, my body was lifted, and I felt like sleep paralysis. So I said, okay. I was like, you know what? Let me reach out to Nick. You know, so I sent information over to Nick. Excuse me, and we were able to kind of dig in deeper. And long story short, we went in remotely. So what was it? 2 females and 1 male that were there.
Mhm.
So there were 2 females and 1 male. We went in with our first shaman remotely, and he was able to kind of really weaken the 2 females and somewhat weaken the other male. And then we switched over to Fernando, because Fernando, like I said, he's like, in my mind, I look at him as like Dumbledore. He's so powerful. We were actually able to get in there because this was a very negative, inhuman entity that was kind of attached to that house, and it went as far as reaching out to Missy, affecting her family. It was affecting my sister-in-law. They were, certain things were happening in the house. They were feeling unwell. We actually had to do like an emergency cleansing. I think the team we went there twice.
Mm-hmm.
We went there twice before we were able to get this one thing completely out, and that was my first client case, type of client case, and it was really interesting to see the whole process of going in there with the Palo Alto and the black salt and everything like
Palo
that.
Santo, not Palo Alto. Palo Alto, isn't that California?
Yeah.
One of the cities there.
We're just gonna call it Palo Alto from now on.
All right.
So that was my first experience with that, and it was really. That brings me back to what I said before about being careful when you go into certain locations because you don't know what you're going to come across. You look at this entity we had at my brother's house, and it took 2-3 shamans to get in there and finally clear it out. It was very dark, very negative. It was a great learning experience.
Well, it was Caleb was the first shaman
Yes.
that came through, and he had his own personal stuff going on, so I think that's why he didn't get it all. But he definitely knocked it down pretty good to the point that Fernando just came in and swept it all under the rug, and it was done. But Missy does a lot of the reads on houses for us. We'll usually send her a picture of the house, and she's blown up the spot of some nasty stuff inside some of these homes, and sometimes she gets targeted. In this case, they were really pissed off that she found them out, and we were having someone come clear them out. To the point that they wanted to go after her while she was driving. And there was this whole thing about her, careful driving and stuff like that, because one of the women that was in the house, one of the female entities, went missing from the house. Fernando couldn't find her. And, as soon as we had Danny and we had Karen from my house and Don from my house, our spirit friends that came and they were with Missy, making sure she made it home okay. And as soon as she made it home okay, then that other female came back to the house because I guess she wasn't able to do what she wanted to do. From then on, this male entity, which was really pissed, went to Missy's house and was banging on the walls, uh, throwing things around and stuff like that. I remember we had to have Missy go with her son outside of the home so that Fernando can try and get this thing back to the other house and then get it cleared out. So it took some work, and eventually everything worked out the way that it had to.
And what these things do is they feed off of fear. So this one entity was actually quite malicious. He was presenting himself in a very inhumane, gross, scary, disfigured state to a young baby. Obviously, if a baby sees that, it's going to scream and cry.
Mm-hmm.
And able to feed off of that, and that's how they gain their strength. So, like Nick said, we got them out of the house immediately. Fernando went in there and moved him back to kind of, his ring, his fighting area, and that's when we were able to kind of handle everything from there.
And as far as the baby thing that Joe mentioned, this was this entity portraying itself to Missy's baby, and showing itself as disfigured and stuff like that to get a reaction for that fear to feed off of it. So eventually in the end everything worked out. The spirit was knocked out, and now there's nothing going on in the house, and everything's good, and we have a happy ending. So one of the things that has recently happened, at least for us client case wise, is we've had an uptick as far as negative cases. Like the last few that we've had have all been some bad stuff, and I don't know if that's like because of the what's going on in the world today or what. All right, so really, Joe, you had to send me a text message that says farts are really bad today.
So can I just take a minute?
Go ahead.
I'm a little concerned because something's going on with CJ,
Okay.
and I'm not sure what. But if you watch him, something's not right. And Travis just told me that Eric is with CJ right now because he needs protection.
What's going on with CJ?
So I just asked him to take pictures and send to Missy. But it's weird because my door happened at the same time. But I've been watching CJ for a little while, asking him if he's okay because he seems off. And he see him looking up. If something's there with him, he keeps looking up.
I can feel it. I just don't know what.
So we got some paranormal stuff going on while we're live, which is weird in our own homes. So not sure what's going on, but I've asked CJ to take a selfie and pictures of his room and send to Missy.
All right.
And Missy asked me for pictures of my front door.
Of the front door?
Yeah.
It's funny. They're not going through with me. None. The group chat's not letting me send it.
So anyway, continue.
Other than that, any closing comments you guys want to mention?
The only thing I have to say is, again, if anyone ever wants to get into something like this, just be smart about it. Don't go in there doing the wrong thing. Don't try to be like the guys on TV because it's really not like that. Just be smart and be safe about it.
What about Travis? You've been running your mouth this whole show. What else you got to say?
What do you have to say? What advice? If someone wants to get into this, what advice?
Do not go to Nick.
So I would say be smart. Don't go in there like a badass thinking you're going to provoke, because you don't want to provoke things you can't see or defend yourself from and then conjure up some really bad shit. So be smart about it.
There you go. And hopefully whatever's going on at your guys' homes, unfortunately this is some of the stuff that happens risks wise when you do paranormal investigating, and especially when you have abilities, you're much more open and susceptible to things following you home. So unfortunately, through the bond that Missy, Terry, and CJ all have, where they all feel each other, and if someone's bothered by something, the other two feel it. It's a really unique situation. So when there's a haunting, usually it kind of affects all of them.
Yeah.
I don't know if anything's going on with Missy. If you've got something going on in your home, and then something's going on at CJ's home, has anyone talked to Missy to see if
Yeah,
everything?
she's waiting for pictures. I sent her pictures of my house, but she's waiting for pictures of CJ's.
Well, what about her? Is anything happening by her?
What's that?
Is anything happening at her house?
I don't know. Let me ask her.
You're having issues sending stuff, right, CJ?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
It's
Well,
just
we
kind of
wanna-
weird because if you remember, well, I think I don't even know if I mentioned it now. The last time that did this, no, I told Missy in our chat. The last time my door opened by itself, I had that negative entity in my cubby,
Mhm.
in my crawl space.
Yeah.
Travis has sent me a farmer too.
Missy saw the white misty stuff we've been seeing
She saw it where?
at
In
her
her
house.
Hmm.
So again, all three of us have something. But last time my door opened was when I had that nasty energy entity in the crawl space that the guy who followed me home from work was trying to warn me about.
Hmm. And then Fernando ended up taking care of that as well.
Yeah, Fernando
So,
took care
we're
of
gonna have to send him a fruit basket for all the
something.
stuff that he's done.
I know.
So,
I offered to pay him recently. He told me my money was no good.
yeah. And Fernando, the guy is such a mystery. He won't let anyone know his last name, where exactly in Arizona that he lives. Just that his name is Fernando. He's a badass shaman. He takes care of business, and he likes Corona. So, we want to wish Fernando the best because he's unfortunately dealing with coronavirus now. And I was joking around with him and said, got to drink the Corona to get rid of the coronavirus. So he's healing up right now, and hopefully he'll be back in action soon. But we want to thank everybody who joined us today, and we'll be back next Monday, 8 p.m. with another show. We'll have another topic to go over with you guys, and we hope that you will tune in. Other than that,
And if you guys have any ideas or questions you want us to do a show off of, just leave it in the comment section.
Yes.
And we'll all kind of see what we can come up with.
Right. Like if you want to see a show on Joe's mustache from A Spirit of Halloween, we'll do a show on that as well. So, all right, everybody, take care. Have a great rest of your night.
Thank you.